Hi, I'm Jamie Williams with Glanbia Performance Nutrition, and you're listening to the CPG Guys podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our hosts, Sri Rajgopalan, Peter V.S. Bond, and Brian Gildenberg explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys. Hello and welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. I'm PVSB, your incorrigible host. I'm joined today by the other co-host, my best friend and my brother. He's a formidable thought leader in the world of omnichannel consumer engagement. And of course, he's also patriarch of the Raj family entertainment empire. And he's also the chief revenue officer of Think Blue, where he co-hosts a brand new podcast under that platform called Fearless Leadership. Of course, I'm referring to the man known as Sri. Sri, how goes the launch of your daughter Lara's new band, Cat's Eye? You've been pretty busy. She's been all over the country. What's going on?
Yeah, we just, Ria was at YouTube this week for a lot of content, new videos coming. And then last night, their actual managers were home. Lots going on in that world. And Peter, at the time of this recording, the band went from hadn't done a live event to their first live event at Staples Center in front of 30,000 people. That was like insane. So Cat's Eye is on fire. I'm the Netflix doc series on the making of the band from 120,000 to 6 who finally made it. And my daughter was lucky enough to make it to the band. Launches August 23rd. At the time of this recording, it's probably going at the time of release of this, it's probably already live. So we're looking forward to the big watch party of the Netflix docuseries. They're performing again in LA at the El Rey Theater next Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays out. Then they're performing again the following week at a event downtown. It's nonstop, Peter. And then if you start looking at the socials, everything's in the millions at this point.
I saw there are over 6 million downloads of their new single on Spotify. I also think I saw them on television this past Monday talking to a legendary New York Giants player on Good Morning America. What was that all about, Sri?
I actually told my daughter, can you give Strayan a hug? And she just laughed at me. And they performed on Good Morning America this past Monday, like you said, which was an experience in itself. And when she got home, she told us the story of how that works. That call time was 2 a.m. for rehearsal, which was amazing, just amazing. I mean, being on Good Morning America is no joke. So many more of those to come. Can't reveal the plot, but, Cat's Eye is here as the next Spice Girls, well on its way. And I'm lucky that I called myself Laura and Ria's dad.
Glad to have a backstage view from as a friend of the family, so to speak. So thanks for that, Sri. Before we introduce our guest, we want to request all of our
mug I have. It's actually Kavita's podcast.
Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. There's, of course, Kavita.
They've taken a page out of our book and now learned that these things are important.
They're getting all our swag. What's going on here, Sri? They're like, we're supposed to have the swag game. Suddenly, we've got competition in the Raj family. This is crazy. All right. Thank you, Sri. Before we introduce our guests, we want to request all of our loyal listeners who use Apple or Spotify as their preferred podcast listening platform, please give the CPG Guys a rating. Please go over to the podcast page, scroll down to where they offer stars, and give us a star rating. We like the number 5, but it's entirely up to you. We ask you to do that because it helps feed the algorithm that makes our show more findable by CPG or retail industry professionals, much like yourselves. While you're at it, please let your colleagues know about the educational entertainment value of the CPG Guys platform in both podcast form and all the content we're sharing on LinkedIn, because we have a lot of original content. We've got the Retail Media Minute. We've got quite a number of other things upcoming too. So please do follow us there. We also encourage you to check out our sister podcast, the FMCG Guys over in Europe, and CPG Scoop to expand your podcast portfolio of information sources. We're like craft beer. We know we don't have a 100% share of stomach, but we want to introduce you to some other really great beers to drink, and that's what we're doing with these podcasts. We're also looking to go internationally. More on that in the coming months. So we're trying to cover some other regions. In any event, the CPG Guys are going to be kicking off the upcoming CGT Consumer Goods Sales and Marketing Summit that's transpiring this September 23rd to the 25th in Princeton, New Jersey, with a State of the Industry fireside chat. The event has a full schedule of events with numerous industry luminaries, including previous podcast guest Surabhi Pokhriyal from Church and Dwight. We've got our friend Vivek Rastogi from Colgate-Palmolive, Shree's sister-in-law, Sonia Sadie from Coca-Cola. There are just a whole bunch of really great people there. So please check that out. The link to the summit registration page, our podcast collective, and the entire Raj family social media connections are all available in the digital liner notes to this episode. So please do check them out. All right, so let's get to our conversation for today. Well, you know how much we love to talk about retail media on this podcast. Frequently, we have a lot of industry practitioners from the retail side. Today, we're fortunate enough to have someone from the brand side to speak about the transformation that's occurring in media. We connected with her earlier this summer at the Cannes Lions International Festival of Creativity, where she expressed a mild appreciation for our podcast. And she said, well, if you wanted to have me on the podcast, I might consider it. But flattery, as you know, always works with the CPG guys. We love to talk about ourselves in the third person. So Shree and I knew we had to have you join us for what we expect will be a pretty lively conversation. Our guest has a pretty impressive background in paid search and retail media work with prior stints at Performix, Omnicom Media Group, and Mindshare. 2 years ago, she moved from the agency world over to the brand side when she joined Glanbia Performance Nutrition as Senior Retail Media Manager. We're looking forward to engaging in a great conversation of rank punditry around all things retail media from a brand perspective. So please join us in welcoming to the podcast, Jamie Williams. Jamie, how you doing? Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I started watching your guys' Retail Media Minute on LinkedIn whenever Jeff Malmed was doing it for Mindshare when I was there, and then started listening to your podcast. So I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Do you hear that, Shree? We got a lead gen from Malmed. That's good news. That's great. We'll take him any way we can.
Jeff just crossed 100 episodes himself of the Retail Media Minute. Congratulations to him, Mindshare, and his PR team for working with us on that. To the day, it's one of the most liked pieces of content on the CPG guys. So thank you for calling that out, Dave.
A lot of eyeballs, a lot of impressions. Really great stuff. Jeff, we love you here. Congratulations on 100. Looking forward to more and more. All right. So Jamie, before we get to the questions Shree and I prepared, it would be great if you would let our listeners know how they would probably better know Glanbia, maybe by some of the brands in the portfolio and what your role at the company entails.
So we are part of the sports nutrition space, and we actually are a $1 billion brand for protein powder. Optimum Nutrition is the world leading protein powder in the space. You might know it as Gold Standard Whey, or people call it the On brand. Other brands we have in our portfolio are Think, Slim Fast, Amazing Grass, BSN, and Isopure.
Great. That's very helpful. And what is your role at the company?
I currently sit on the e-commerce COE, where I lead retail media, really across search, display, and any digital activation by through managed service with the retailers.
All right, Shree, it sounds to me like we've got exactly the right person to talk retail media today. I'm not concerned about this. So we can bring out the really tough questions. No, it's not going to be anything like that. All right. In the digital liner notes of this episode, we're going to include links to Jamie's LinkedIn profile, Glanbia's LinkedIn page, and also Glanbia's corporate site. So our listeners can multitask. They often like to search and learn as they're listening to the melodious tones of our conversation. So please go ahead and do that. So let's get to the questions. I'm going to kick us off. Jamie, before you joined Glanbia, you spent quite a number of years working on the agency side. I'd love to understand how you think it really helped prepare you for the work you do at Glanbia. Did it shape how you engage with agencies that are doing a lot of the hands-on keyboard work that you're seeking in retail media? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I really loved my time at agencies, and I know a lot of people don't always say that, but I really do think it helped me grow as a professional. I spent about 9 years in conversion-based media, where I was really hands down in activation. So agency taught me to be a critical thinker It showed me how to look at a bigger picture, and it really helped me understand to tell those stories that were data led. When Matt Goodson took a chance on me and brought me to GPN, I knew I really wanted to be on a COE. I thought that would be a better fit with all my media activation and my day-to-day coming from like a director over in an agency to more of a COE lead here hasn't changed all that much, besides I don't have a team that's actually running the activation piece. I utilize an agency, Flywheel, to do all of my paid media for me. And I have hired two wonderful women, Morgan Riggs and Christine Bands, to help me on my side to make sure our brands are following brand guidelines, to make sure that we're understanding the brief and what our customer needs. They both came on hands-on activation too, and from agency. So I really think we approach agency a little bit different. I mean, you can ask our agency team, they might say differently, but I like to think of it as we probably aren't your easiest client because we are in the day-to-day a little bit more, but we understand what goes into the work. So I try to think back to my agency days on how long it took me to figure out what the strategy was, how long it took that campaign activation to come to life. And so I try to look at my agency not just as my partner, but an extension of my team. Nicole Vance at Flywheel has been great at, she actually helped me prep for this too, to make sure I was ready. I love the partnership. I do want us to be truly integrated. So really working together to make sure I have someone that also challenges me, because my team isn't always right.
Jamie, first of all, welcome to the show. And one of the most heartwarming things in a third-year career of appreciated of people is when they call out others in the team. You called out Morgan. I didn't get the name of the other person, but starting off that way on the CPG guys is one of the best ways to do it, because you're all for your teams and people. So congratulations on that. But I get to ask you the fun question now, which is, in a changing world of retail media and in a world with unlimited RMNs now popping up, there's a new one a day. I was reading the latest note from eMarketer, where now even those who want retailers like Chase Bank has a retail media network. In that sort of world, with inventory now bursting at the hip and inventory being on-site and off-site, search was one of the bossy things in the past, and it made everything easy because you can totally connect it with lower funnel activation and easily measure ROI. But in a world that's changed with different capabilities now, starting with search, is that still the boss today, or is this plethora of inventory on-site, off-site now more important at building a full funnel marketing activation?
As a previous search-only person, I want to say yes, but I also recognize that's not always the case. I think it really depends on what your brand's trying to do in the retail media space. Yes, if you're trying to drive that conversion and that true ROI, search is the way to go. But as the offerings expand, the DSP, either on-site or off-site's really helping you engage on that loyalty. You can bring it in through your audience networks or people that have previously purchased and try to really bring in that long-term value. And then also, if they're really just trying to drive their household penetration or really try to get that reach through a new branded campaign, STV or any more like TV by like Amazon's doing the NFL now, how they can utilize those platforms to really reach their brand goals as well. So unfortunately, it's not that easy of an answer that yes, search is driving everything. I think it's really that mix of media across the brands and what story you're trying to get with your creative.
Can I piggyback on that, Jamie, and ask you, is that a generic across categories in a store, or for food and bev, that's more important because of all the household decline they've had in the last 18 odd months? Or would that story apply to irrespective of category?
That is a good question. I will say most of my time has been focused on that CPG world. I think it depends. I think it still depends on what the brand is trying to achieve. If they're trying to get that sale, you still need that conversion driving. But if they're a new brand and they're trying to tell the story of who they are, I think that is where they utilize the retail media networks, not in a conversion space. So I'm sorry, I don't think I answered that the best.
That was fine. Thank you. Back to what Shri made mention of, it does seem like every week a new retail media platform is launched. How can brands hope to manage investment across so many platforms? I don't think they are right now. And are there changes that kind of need to take place around either consolidation or better integration for automation across multiple platforms that are going to let brands invest beyond where they primarily are investing right now, which is Amazon and Walmart? What are your thoughts on that?
It's a conversation that's within the GPN walls right now as those retail media networks keep popping up and actually what their offerings are for. So when we're looking at the search space, I would say the more optimizations that you can make and scale help us determine if you are going to get that brand investment and what you're offering at that channel level for measuring and reporting. I recognize too, sometimes the smaller platforms don't have the scale that they need. And if you can't add in the keywords or the audiences and scale that, unfortunately, budget will be taken away because we want to make sure our budget is spent efficiently, effectively, and also really where that return is coming from, at least in the search space. And then a lot of times with that too, they're offering more of these .com activations that through the managed service as well that don't typically give you the best reporting. So I think that's kind of where I'm with there. But also, if you can't scale, I'm not willing to optimize towards an impression just to reach a dollar amount. I more so want to make sure I'm bringing in dollars.
No debate, Jamie, that reporting is definitely, it's historically always been a challenge. I think search made it easy because the attribution was just so easy to conversion. But in a world of insane inventory, without reporting and quality attribution, a lot of this just becomes meaningless. So I know a budget struggle and a budget war is the only way to be, but give us a rough idea. I'm just piggybacking on that question. Reporting today, do you feel generally comfortable with the reporting you get from various retail media investments, or does it still continue to be a challenge and you got to jump through hoops to really get to the bottom of ROI?
I would say I'm jumping through hoops. I think some retailers are doing it well, like the big names out there, but there are other retailers that are trying to sell in, at least on the brand side, buys that don't come with reporting. I've been pitched a buy that I only get click-through rate, and I have to pay additional $75,000 to get what my cost was, how it played out, was it efficient, and if it even drove any sales. That's something that we are challenging on the brand side. I personally don't believe in funding a retailer just to fund a retailer. I don't want it to be a cash grab. I really want it to be a partnership where they're interested in growing our brand on their retail.com as well.
Jamie, the example you gave of 75,000 is probably one retailer, but generally is the world headed to, if you needed that level of reporting, that 75 repeats itself for each campaign, or are those like one-time fees and you can get, if you run 10 campaigns, you just really invest once on that 75,000?
I think it was a once investment. They said it could be technically working media, but it was still like, oh, you need to invest over this amount. So we even give you sustainable reporting.
How'd you like that, Peter? Reporting is now working media. I'm speechless. That's why we're quiet here, but
I was too when I heard it. I was like, I'm not doing this.
We need to get into the retail media measurement business and charge those kind of fees. We'll be doing great.
The new retail media measurement services with Jamie Williams. I'm just kidding, guys. So staying on this theme, I want to jump to RMNs now are increasingly promoting upper funnel ad units. Offsite programmatic, while it's been around forever, is now on fire. Like it's the latest, hottest thing to bring back households. And streaming TV is played. In fact, many streaming TV providers have come on the CPG guys and had a conversation with us. Are these services appealing to you for investment? Do you invest in them? And then it appears linear TV still hasn't gone away. And even you said right at the top, hey, if you want to introduce brand to the world, commercials are not a bad idea. So what's keeping streaming TV from replacing traditional channels like linear TV and print? Because I can still find print, like Peter asked right up front, how's your band Cat's Eye doing? They prioritize getting on Vogue magazine, like the print edition.
With that, what I find appealing about them is the offsite programmatic and the more of the video streaming buys through retailers are a few things. One, you can utilize the retailer audiences. So it's really getting you one step closer to the purchaser within that retailer, especially if you have retailer goals that you have to hit at a certain rate. Another one is a lot of retailers continue to ask brands how we're driving offsite traffic to the .com. And unfortunately, they want it all. So they want that national driving and they want their .com and their offerings within their buys to also drive there too. But this is a way to say, hey, we are driving offsite to retail.com and we're utilizing our national campaign messaging to really bring to that life that story. When it's going back to like the linear TV question, I don't think it's going to take it over. And there's a few reasons for that just on our side. I do believe that we still need that brand building awareness to that. And we should be activating against different pulse periods than what the retailers are providing. Brands don't always want to put all of their eggs in one basket to one specific retailer. And those linear TV buys are really getting us outside of the box of just that .com. Yeah, we don't have as much measurement, but they are still measuring them through MMMs. We constantly are hearing about those fair and equitable guidelines, so we want to make sure that we're not favoring one retailer. And then any outside activations really allow you to reach different targets. Like I said, we're utilizing those retailer audiences, but what happens outside?
Thanks for that, because I think, there's a lot of push towards it, but dispelling the rumors that the death of linear television has been greatly exaggerated. It's still out there. It still plays a role. And I think to some degree until even like in-store retail media can take the place of some of the stuff that from a broad reach perspective, linear television has been able to afford. I don't think that streaming television is the be all and end all. So I would very much tend to agree with you on that. I want to remind our audience that we're speaking with Jamie Williams. She's a senior retail media manager at Glanbia Performance Nutrition. So let's talk philosophically. Would love to understand about your guiding principles around partnering internally with both brand and customer teams in establishing retail media plans. How do you go about doing that?
So I feel like every company's different, how they're planning and how their teams are set up. So we are trying to break down those silos at GPN, even though we do have multiple people sitting on different teams. So we are kind of in a 2-year journey of this evolution of how we're partnering across both brand and sales departments to really come together. My team often overlaps with our shopper marketing team, who is also in-house. So what we decided for the last year and continue is we really want to plan together. And so we sit down in rooms, we talk with the customer teams at the same times about the retail media activations in the in-store. We try to overlap that. So what we've been doing this year is we've kind of put together a questionnaire for our customer teams that we really wanted them to outline what products they needed, what big key tentpole events are there, what are their retailers expecting of them, are there levels of investments that they have promised, and then also what are their hero products, what are we doing to get there. After we get that, we kind of come into a room. We've done a few all-day sessions of planning out what that retailer looks like at a calendar level. And then we take that to our brand team because our brand is funding our dollars on this side. And with that, we run the plan by them. If they have any feedback, which I would expect them to, they kind of give that there. And then we take that to our agency teams and to the retail vendors to really start our activations for the upcoming launches. And then we kind of keep moving. We constantly are in contact with our customer teams. We have a bi-weekly, monthly one-on-one, depending on that team, where they're updating us on any products that may need help. If there's a reset coming, what products are coming into the reset and where we need to push. And then we also have our COE connects on a weekly basis across brands to really showcase what national's doing, how we're tying into those plans. And then we also meet with our brand teams.
Most brands, I'm not sure, have fully embraced the understanding that it does take a village to get a good retail media campaign in place with the ROI that brands deserve. And then they turn it over to folks like you and want to ask you why the ROI wasn't perfect or to their expectation when they don't participate. So one of the best things I heard, a little bit of a role model is here, is you use the word bring everyone together. And that's what I would advise every brands to kind of do. I also love that you have a questionnaire that you make the brands fill out so they can be purposeful and specific about the outcomes they seek and what they want from the campaign, as opposed to some misunderstanding or over understanding between all of you. So now let's go to the new buzzword of the year, which was all over the Cannes Lion Festival of Creativity, and I'm 100% sure it's going to be all over grocery shop in the retail media world. That is, in-store retail media is another set of ad units that are quickly emerging on the retail media landscape. How do you think about employing these tools from a brand perspective? Should in-store media remain part of the trade function with sales, or should brands be thinking about this very differently? Because at the end of the day, if a consumer, a shopper walks past a display, it's not like they're always picking stuff up, and maybe the conversion rates from my days in sales to an actual display or an end cap is closer to like 2% of what's on the display or traffic that passed the display. Isn't that impressions at the end of the day?
I recently went to the Retail Media Path to Purchase event too, and it was definitely a hot topic, especially with all the DSPs coming alive and the digital aspects of in-store too. With that, I would say our team loves the idea of the in-store component matching with national and the overall brand messaging. Like I said earlier, we kind of do plan with the brand. A lot of it does sit within our brand side instead of the trade section, but we do still bring in our customer strategy planning teams to really make sure brand and sales is aligning not only on the media front, but also with their in-store and their promo events and any products that are moving forward to retail. With that too, I think in-store is evolving, like I said, to that DSP, and we are teaming up even more because our shoppers knows the shopper in store, while my team may know more of the digital space and how to measure. So with those also DSPs that are coming to life within store, how are we bringing it back to the sale? And I'm intrigued to figure out how retailers are mapping that back. And that is a constant question that I have for them too.
So one of the things, Jamie, in that space, I was at the Path to Purchase Summit as well. And retail, the in-store topic was probably the conversation of the hour, right? And so one of the questions I did want to ask you is, I came to learn when I was at Shop Talk Barcelona earlier this year that in Europe, in-store display has been part of retail media forever, for the last 5+ years. It's in the US we've kept this demarcation. I heard you say that, I just want to make sure I heard this right, that in your world, it actually sits on the brand side of the fence?
I think I probably misspoke. So there's two different sections. So some of the in-store does sit within brand and some comes from trade funding. I will say I don't really oversee that as much. That is our shopper marketing team. They kind of like do a very good balance between what brand wants and what trade wants, and they help plan more of those in-store aspects to make sure the brand voice is still.
Let's do a theoretical exercise, and this is purely theoretical at this point, just so everyone's aware. Let's say the world of shopper experience in store is now connected TVs, which if the Walmart one goes through, what was the one they're buying? Is it LG? What is it, Peter? Whichever big TV company they're buying or streaming TV, and there's TVs all over Vizio. They're all over store, and that becomes an advertising ad unit. Would that be brand, even though it's in store, because it's really telling stories as opposed to driving conversion?
We are considering that brand right now.
Awesome. That's your party. So you guys are one step ahead of the curve.
I feel like we're considering that brand right now because we get most of our funding through the brand team. And then whenever we are connecting to it, like you said, it is storytelling. So we want to make sure it has that brand messaging and we aren't giving consumers.
Yeah, you guys are clearly one step ahead. Yeah. I mean, Europe was there 5 years ago, so y'all are already there. Congrats again. All right, Peter, over to you.
So, Jamie, I get to ask you a really great question because I know you talked at length about this when we were in Cannes, France. Wanted to talk about Amazon Marketing Cloud and this incredible clean room technology. How are you using AMC today? Like, what kind of business strategies are you trying to solve with more data from the retailer?
So I feel like a lot of the products from retailers that are being offered in the retail media space don't always consider the brand when making that. But I do think Amazon, with releasing Amazon Marketing Cloud, did the brand a favor so we could understand how our media is working. Some of the things that we are doing on the media side, at least, is we're really bringing that audience building into play, where we want to make sure that we are either capturing the consumers that came through a tentpole event, the customer journey, where if they're adding to cart, when are they purchasing, and utilizing our data to take out users that might already be high loyalty customers within our DSP to save our efficiencies. And then with that, looking at the time of day so we can inform our optimization strategy on day parting. Another thing that's been interesting to me, I keep trying to solve a little bit more DSP problems, but really retailers have a high frequency rate that they continue to serve. When you look at it from retail media versus a traditional network, a lot of times they're saying like 3 times a week for traditional retail media networks are asking for 5 to 7 times. I personally don't want to be that brand that is bombarding a customer. I hate that. I'll sometimes reach out to, like, if it's a small business that doesn't understand frequency caps, being like, hey, just FYI, you're wasting money on this. So really trying to understand how many times a customer has a frequency before they're purchasing so we can really tailor that. Other things that we are doing, we're really evaluating our KPIs outside of ROAS. So we are trying to get into more of a measurement piece on our side, and not every retailer is there yet, but one of my brands is really interested in the cost per acquisition of bringing in a new to brand customer. And with AMC, you can actually see how many new to brand users you're bringing in to the business. So I've been challenging some of my tech platforms to really look into how they're utilizing AMC, and if I can pull it by a campaign level that feeds back into my daily optimization so I can make sure I'm putting forth the most cost efficient strategy. And then when I'm looking at the business side, there's a few more. Going at that cost per acquisition to a new to brand customer, are we showcasing the true hero product? Is that really the product that's coming into our space that's leading our new to brand acquisition? And then when they're looking at our loyalty data, are they staying with that original? Especially in the protein space, we have so many different sizes. Are they sizing up? And that's what we should be serving them for more of their loyalty-based customer acquisitions. And then also looking at that, understanding our full customer journey, and if product groups have higher costs, is it a basket building opportunity instead? And this might not be just within retail media. It might be how we take something in store and how we pair products together, or how we pitch it to customers when we have a new product coming out, because we have that data at our fingertips. Another that keeps me up at night is promos. Yes, we should activate an Amazon Prime Day. I'm not saying we shouldn't. Don't come after me, Amazon. But with that, do we need to have the level of investment that we do? Because does a new to brand consumer coming in on a promo period have a longer long-term value than a consumer coming in maybe a month earlier when the product wasn't on discount? Because if that consumer is just coming in at that lower price, are they really willing to look at that long term? Or does it make sense to invest our dollars at a different seasonality? That's something I'm trying to solve right now. That said, Amazon Marketing Cloud still has a lot of room. We're still trying to get our first party data ingested in it and really map it out outside of just the Amazon ecosystem. And it's not as user friendly. If you don't know SQL, it's hard. They have their templated analytics. But when you get into that shopper insights piece, if you don't know SQL and you don't have an agency that understands how to pull, you're not going to be able to pull those insights out to really get you there.
Don't worry, Jamie. There are only a couple hundred people from Amazon that listen to this podcast. No one's gonna it won't get back to them.
I want to agree with Jamie on something, and I have no problem saying it, Peter, which is Prime Day. You brought up a very interesting question that I think the industry needs to take seriously, which is a lot of investments go into Prime Day from brands across the board, irrespective of category, right? But I think a question that needs to be asked 10 Prime Days in or as many Prime Days in for a brand, which you pointed out, is Prime Day driving NTB? Or is it just in sending an existing consumer to buy at a lower rate and just do a stock up, whether it's a pantry stock up for food or it's a stock up in a storeroom for non-food categories? And I think to the day, the excitement and the buzz on Prime Day has not really converted to NTB type questions. So I'm glad you brought that up. That needs to be answered and should not be avoided. So Jamie, I'm going to go where the bold go or no one goes. Now we're entering Jurassic Park, which is starting to look into the future. And the question there we have for you is, what are like the hottest trends in retail media? What are you personally following? What would you like to leave our users with that you feel they should be following in terms of retail media and the evolution?
I think the first and foremost one would be social commerce. It's really honestly a great question because there's so many different emerging spaces, especially within just that, whether it's learning a new skill on TikTok or bringing that back to that purchase cycle. You really need the content piece to work well. And it's not just figuring out your audiences. And then also with that, as we emerge into that space and as we start looking at that holistic programming, because I've already had retailers pitch me social commerce within their managed services. How are they bringing that measurement piece into it to showcase really what those influencers are doing for the industry?
Well, we love our audience to give us feedback from today's episode and any of the episodes we've recorded. The best way for you to do that is if you use Apple or Spotify, please go and leave us a review of the podcast. Tell us what you think, what you like, what you don't like. And while you're there, give us a rating because as I told you before, it really helps with the algorithm to help people find our podcast. And thank you as always to the 33,000 plus followers of our podcast. On LinkedIn. We're so greatly appreciative of the fact that you trust us to both educate and entertain you. Jamie, thanks for joining us. This is a great conversation. Seems like you're in the thick of it like us, trying to make the most of this transformative retail media world. We're really appreciative for you taking time today to talk to us. So Shri, great conversation. What were some of the salient points that you want to call out from what Jamie shared with us?
So you know that any episode on retail media will be one of my faves. So needless to say, this will automatically get the double special asterisk. So we started up top. Jamie kind of leads retail media as well as managed services with retailers as well. I had mentioned it right up front when you said you loved working in an agency. Very few people kind of come here and say, I loved working in an agency. They reflect more on their transition to brand, which is great. But there was a key statement you made, which I think was important. An agency training gives one the ability in the world of advertising to see the bigger picture. And I think that's important. Most people focus on the myopic execution. I also love that you called out team members. I did call out one of them whose name was Morgan, forget the other name. But, you don't fight this battle and build epic brands without a team and an army of people. So it's important. Then we started talking about the value of search. Is it everything? And I hate to admit it, but after listening to you, I do have to kind of concur that search is still the boss for ROI and the way it works out. But if you're searching for household penetration, commercials is important, STV, streaming TV is important. And the example you gave of Amazon and sports as the CCO of General Mills, I'd invest significantly in Thursday Night Football, probably the only food brand that did the Thursday Night Football partnership last year. And then another thing you kind of pointed out was focusing on brand outcomes versus retail outcomes. And then upper funnel, which is telling the story of the brand who. And then from a budgets perspective, we jumped into reporting and how it's become a challenge and that one needs to focus on scale even with reporting. And then I asked you, are you still jumping through hoops to get reporting and managing budgets? Looks like nothing's changed over the last 7-8 years in terms of that. I mean, if retailers are still coming up with, hey, you need an investment just to get a reporting, the industry is doing something wrong. And we got to fix that, Peter. We need to be advocating more for that. It's just not okay. If you're going to take someone's dollars in inventory, it needs to come with campaign reporting. And campaign reporting that satisfies a brand, not campaign reporting that satisfies a retailer. Then we jump to the programmatic world. We talked about using retail audiences for TV and print so they can be contextual and targeted in nature. And even to the day, linear TV works get-go on audience scale, which I couldn't agree even more. And it's the reason why linear TV, especially live events, still survive. The Olympics at this time of the recording is a great example of one such. Simone Biles and her achievements, which is nothing short of being elite. And then we went to the learning area where you talked about bringing everybody together, coaching everybody, doing things together. Love the idea of the questionnaire, which kind of documents exactly what an expected outcome is, both from a retail and brand perspective from your customer team. I asked you about in-store. You're one step ahead of the curve because many, not all, but many of those in-store activations you're looking at from a brand perspective. Again, putting the brand first is one of the most important things you can do for your brand as a brand steward. We jumped to the Amazon Marketing Cloud. Some interesting things I heard there, which is, again, you went back to connecting outcomes for brands, and when you used the 3-letter word that very few who have come on the show ever use, and we challenge them heavily, which is, does a brand truly understand the consumer acquisition cost? And you mentioned that one of the things you look forward to in the Amazon Marketing Cloud through clean rooms, bringing data sets together, is to do better measurement of CAC, which I think is awesome. And then understanding the consumer journey was another one. Pairing products together. These are all important messages that brand stewards need to hear. Promos, whether they are actually, and we talked a little bit about investing in Prime Day, but really everyday promos, do they truly measure new to brand? And then we jump to what should people follow? We couldn't agree with you more. Social commerce is hot. And people tend to say, it's the Gen Z, Gen Y. Well, most of the cooking recipes I've learned in the last 4 years have come from TikTok. I don't think I belong in Gen Y or Gen Z from an age perspective. It's time brands really, really didn't shy away from being risk averse via UGC and took social commerce seriously, and the influencer world. And the other one was, of course, retailers showcasing path to purchase via the bringing in-store retail media. That's the summary of what we learned today, Peter.
Thanks, Sri. That was comprehensive. I appreciate it. And as always, thank you for joining me on this journey. We had another great conversation, this time from the brand side. Really helps round out how our audience is exposed to different ways of thinking around the transformation going on in media with the introduction and growth of retail media. I do agree that search is still the Mac Daddy, but the biggest growing areas are in store and programmatic. So that's where the growth is. It's kind of like soft drinks, right? If you look at where the big growth is at a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, right? It's some of these emerging brands, but let's not forget what drives the profitability and the revenue for the company. I think you and I both know that from our prior work experiences. Anyhow, thanks again for joining me on this journey. And to our audience, we appreciate you turning to us to both educate and entertain you. We look forward to speaking with you on the next episode of the CPG Guys Podcast. Goodbye. The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.